If it came out that we were 100% living in a simulation, what would be the biggest indicator looking back? Story 1. How arbitrary the speed of light limit is. It's just the read-write speed limit of the hard drive we are living in. Reply. Junior. Simulation dev. Hey, should we model the whole multiverse? Senior simulation dev. Nah, just make a skydome texture. Junior. Simulation dev. What do we do if they make it to the edge? Senior simulation dev. Just cap their travel speed. By the time they get there, it will be somebody else's problem. Reply 2. Not only did they cap the travel speed, they also introduced the arbitrary variant of universe expansion to never really have to render anything beyond the local cluster. It's a neat trick, though. Much better than the invisible wall all around that we use in our simulations. Story 2. One time some friends and I were playing a game on Steam called Tabletop Simulator. It's a game where you can play board games and have to actually move the pieces and such. It had the ability for any player to spawn in any game pieces for any game at any time. There's also an extras category. One of the extras you can spawn in is an iPad. So we get fucking around and it's a functioning iPad. I opened up Ancon Arcade and tried playing Hex Empire. It worked. So I am sitting in my game room, on my PC, playing a game on Steam, with a VR headset strapped to my face, where I am sitting at a table on an iPad, playing full functioning Flash games on that iPad. I was like, how much deeper does this go than me? Is somebody playing me too? Reply. Why not play Tabletop Simulator in Tabletop Simulator? Story 3. All the déjà vu moments. Like MF, I've played this level already. Reply. There are moments where I've gone, wow, I feel like I've seen this place in a dream. Or, wow, this happened in a dream, and I don't know how to react. Story 4. Our Sims can play The Sims. Reply. I wonder if our Sims are playing The Sims. Story 5. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, lazy coding like GTA. You see a car for the first time and the next day you see it everywhere. Reply. I recently learned while watching a speedrun that this wasn't lazy coding, it was a hardware limitation. The old games could only keep so many different models of car loaded at once, so whatever car you were driving would become more frequent since it had to be loaded. Story 6. That it never fails that once you start to get a little bit ahead in life, your car's check engine light comes on. Reply. Actually happened to me a year ago. Haven't heard about this before though. Reply 2. That's my secret, my car's check engine light is always on. Story 7. Never seeing my neighbors carrying in groceries. Reply. I saw this mentioned the other day and had a moment of WTF. Then realized I don't really watch my neighbors all that often, so why would I have seen it lol? Reply 2. Start watching now, and you'll see. We've been watching our neighbors for months because of this phenomenon, and we never see anyone bringing in groceries. And we have tons of neighbors because we're in a densely populated condo complex. Further support for the simulation is one neighbor moving in and carried in 9 different kinds of chairs. No two were the same. Story 8. Long, but super weird and inexplicable. I know how this sounds, but I swear this really happened. I was a childhood bookworm. While the other girls at a 5th grade sleepover were playing air hockey and dancing around to "Let's Hear It for the Boy," I'd pulled a creepy-looking book off my hostess shelf and huddled into a beanbag chair in a quiet corner of her family room. I finished the book that night, and the next morning I placed it back on her shelf, left, and promptly forgot the title. We moved a few months later and I spent the next 7 years trying to find that damn book. There was no internet, just old card catalogs, but I searched every library I visited. Unfortunately, both book and title remained elusive. It turns out that there is no shortage of books about young ghost girls on farms in spooky houses with ponds. The author wasn't Mary Downing Hahn, Richard Peck, or any of the usual paranormal YA authors. It wasn't Wait Till Helen Comes. The only thing I could remember about the cover was that she was holding an owl. That didn't turn out to be helpful, either. In my sophomore year I worked as a librarian's aide and spent roughly 2 hours in my school's library every day. To no avail. I'd literally searched through every book that contained the following keywords: ghost, haunted, spooky, scary, and mystery. But one afternoon as I was shelving books in the biography section, something quite literally hit me on the head. It was a hardback book that had fallen off the top shelf in a section it didn't belong in. As soon as I picked it up and saw the hollow owl on the cover, I knew. It was not a book logged into our system. Nobody knew how it got there. I was alone in the library. For what it's worth, I just Googled, novel ghost story girl pond owl, and it was the top result, The Ghost Next Door by Willie Folk St. John. If I'd just waited 32 years, reply. I'm just going to leave this here. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer and I was very worried about her. I was in bed with my wife, getting a little teary-eyed, and my wife said that our dads, who are both deceased, would watch out for my mom. The second those words left her mouth, my bedside table lamp turned on. We both freaked out. Story 9. Going into a room and forgetting what I was gonna do. We're Sims and they canceled the action. Reply. The doorway effect. Basically, your brain is using the transition to a new environment to do some housekeeping, and your short-term memory getting wiped is one of those things. Story 10. I can sometimes think of a movie or a song, and that bitch either shows up in some form on my suggestions or my actual television. Reply. How many times I've said, I haven't spoken to X in a while, I should give them a call. And then my phone starts ringing. Story 11. Things would reappear only when I stopped looking for it. If that's not a dead giveaway that we're living in a simulation, I don't know what is. And don't forget about hairpins and hair ties. Where do they even go? Reply. This happened to me last week. Dropped both of my silver rings on the ground in my small bathroom. I find one, but the other one is nowhere to be found. Every day I look and nothing. Then one day I'm sitting on the toilet and there's the ring, right there in front of me. I would have had to walk over it every time I go in and out of the bathroom. I live alone, so no one was messing with me, and I use only that bathroom during the day and night. How did I not see it for 3 days and then all of a sudden it appears? Story 12. I used to work in a pharmacy, so I asked about 100 people for their name and job every day. A couple weeks into the job, I mentioned to a coworker how I hadn't had a single customer with the same birthday as me. Got 4 of them over the next 2 days. Reply. I love when the simulation thinks to itself, oh, snap. I've been noticed. I better make up for it, and then it goes way overboard. Reply 2. This reminds me of a situation I experienced very recently. I am an immigrant living in the US. There aren't that many fellow German immigrants where I live. It's not a common occurrence to meet someone from back home. About a month ago, I took my child to the zoo. At the gorilla house, there was a large gathering of people in front of a window, observing the animals. As I was standing there, I heard a couple speaking in German. I made sure I had heard correctly and greeted them in our native tongue. The woman looked extremely shocked and acted standoffish. I hadn't expected such a reaction. She eventually pointed to the window and said, "This lady there is also from Germany and just came up to us as well." I look over and see a cheerful young woman wave at me. I honestly thought that the couple I had addressed believed to be on some hidden camera TV show. The husband informed me that they had lived in the States for 2 years without ever having met someone from Germany. Not once. Only to end up being bombarded by random German people in the span of a couple of minutes. It was extremely bizarre. Story 13. We went from the Wright brothers flying the first plane to space missions in roughly 50 years. That's wild emo. I don't think people realize how quickly tech evolves. Reply. Similar, but for me it's the 80 years between ironclad ships at the end of the Civil War and detonating the atomic bomb. Story 14. The pens. I used to go to large corporate meetings a few times a year. They gave out pens and notepads to everyone, as if I was going to take notes. I would take pens from empty seats and from coworkers and take them home. A dozen at a time at least. This went on for years. So where are the pens? There should be hundreds of them in my home. I should be able to stand anywhere and look in any direction and see a pen, but no. Story 15. Look at the video game industry and all the progress made in only 50 years. We went from dots and bars on a screen to photorealistic characters and full-scale worlds. Now extrapolate this progress out, say, 1,000 years. I don't think it's inconceivable to think that we might be able to simulate an entire galaxy by then. And if we can, someone else might already have. Reply. You don't have to simulate everything, it only needs to be believable to the user. A smart AI would know exactly what to show you to make you believe everything you see, feel, touch, hear, smell is real. Reply 2. I feel like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle exists to save CPU cycles in the simulation. Story 16. Outer space not having sound. Very convenient, dear devs, very convenient. Reply. We're lucky we can't hear the sun. Story 17. The double-slit experiment, the act of observation having an effect on an outcome. Reply. This. Physics would be wrong. Instead of a nice simple particle physics, the simulation would be optimized to be more efficient, treating everything like a wave, unless it has to actually simulate individual particles, e.g. when they are observed going through slits. Whoever built the simulation cheaped out and didn't have enough resources to simulate every single particle in the universe, so they just do some wave calculations to save resources, and they only collapse the waves when they are observed. Story 18. Clearly that some people have their settings on easy mode and others are on survival mode. You ever met someone who literally never has or had any issues? Easy childhood, solid upbringing with good parents, smart, good looking, gets the job they want, healthy relationship, financially stable. That's an NPC on the easy mode for sure. Reply. Ah, now I get it. Of course I choose survival mode. It will be more fun like this, stupid me said. Story 19. Half the population has no inner monologue. They're just wandering around, following their programming, with nothing running between their ears. Also, the fact that the most amusing outcome is usually the one we get. It's like you put SimCity on pause, went to the washroom, then your kid brother unpaused it and started dropping all the disasters and fucking everything up. Hey, stop. You're cool. Subscribe for more. Yo.